Hi, Kiwi listeners. Let's Learn Sumo. I'm Clayton. Welcome to the podcast. Special episode tonight. Invited a friend along. Goose from formerly Salt City Sumo, now Sunday Morning Sumo. Welcome, Goose. Thanks for coming on.
G'day. Yeah, it's been causing confusion for people, but we're all good now.
Nothing like a rebrand halfway through a
Happy
bash,
to be here.
Why the rebrand?
Salt Lake City Sumo Club, Salt City Sumo. It was just causing too many problems.
Fair enough. Interesting basho, missing a lot of ozeki and lots of injuries. A few of the Sanyaku not there. Terunofuji pulling out after a day. And we had another fresh winner in Onosato, Shin Komusubi Onosato. It's only his third basho in Makuchi. He came up and made his way to Komusubi, I think the second fastest to Komusubi in Sanyaku ranks. How did you see it, Goose? After 2 weeks of the basho, we're just post the tournament. He lifted that enormous trophy, and so did the poor deputy I think, cabinet secretary, who almost busted his shoulder with that 60-pound Prime Minister's Cup.
Saw that. It was rather impressive on his part.
It was.
It was a bit of an odd show for him. It was very impressive, but he starts that by beating the Yokozuna, which is this huge moment for him. Everyone was celebrating. Then the very next day, he loses to Takayasu, and it's like, oh, well, probably not this time, you know? Then he went on a 6 undefeated streak and loses to Hirodumi, who's ranked lower than him. And then he loses to Hoshoryu, and it's like, is this really happening? Is this where it falls apart? And then he just couldn't be stopped. So
I think it was interesting, like the various losses throughout the tournament, particularly people like Hoshoryu and Kodazakura. They had their chances throughout the tournament, and even on the last day, dropping matches that they really shouldn't have dropped to give Onosato a 12-3 win, which, it's not the worst win record ever at 12-3, but there's certainly been better. So he doesn't get a kinboshi for his first win over Terunofuji because he is in Sanyaku, so he doesn't get the extra pay. He gets the win over the Yokozuna, which is expected of Sanyaku occasionally.
What a fantastic problem to have.
I know. Well, I mean, Wakamoto Haru got the extra pay lift because he fell back to Megashira 1 for January, beats the Yokozuna, so he comes out of Sanyaku, beats the Yokozuna, gets a pay increase for beating the Yokozuna, and goes straight back up.
Daisho probably would have had a chance to do that as well if Terunofuji stuck around.
Exactly.
He's one of the few guys with a competitive record against the Yokozuna.
Yeah, I think. It was an interesting win over Terunofuji. Terunofuji, you could see, he locked his arms up very quickly. Very similar to a few of the wins I've seen him do before. He locks up both arms, retreats to the bales, uses them for leverage to, Sukiyanage, throw his opponent across, but he just didn't seem to have the power or the strength to pull Onosato across, and I think Onosato knew exactly what was coming and had the strength and the power to resist.
It's spot on. I think he does well because it's actually very similar to how the first match went down. I think Onosato was ready for it and kind of tricked him into doing that because once he does get thrown, he hooks the leg on the inside to defend it, twisting Terunofuji down as well. So kind of like playing into Terunofuji, maybe underestimating him, the match going the similar way. I actually thought that was very impressive on Onosato's part.
I think Onosato actually fell to that trick to Hoshoryu. I think it was about day 11. Hoshoryu got his Shitatanage throw on Onosato, and it was a big loss for Onosato against the Ozeki. And it's interesting, Hoshoryu got his back leg up and helped Onosato over as he threw him over. So 1 for 1 there.
That is a very fascinating matchup because if you look at the Sumo DB page, it says Hoshoryu is 3-0 over Onosato, and every single win is Shitatanage. He's beat him the same way every time.
I think we mentioned that, or you mentioned that at the time, and it's like it's like people who face up to Midori Fuji. They know that Karasukashi is coming, and yet they still fall to it every time. I was looking at Midori Fuji's record, and Karasukashi is by far and away his biggest winning technique over anything else. which says that everyone knows it's coming, but they struggle to stop it.
Well, sumo is an interesting sport like that because everyone knows Abi is going to put both his hands on your throat at the start of the tachiai. He's been doing it for about 12 years now, but it still beats people.
There's a lot of power in that Norawa too.
Oh, yeah.
So he loses to Takayasu day 2. Oshidashi just couldn't get a grip. Takayasu, I think what could have been in terms of his tournament, got a really good drive. Onosato tried to slap down, but he got driven back and backwards under pressure. It shows that Takayasu, he was in form. Apart from his lumbago, his back issue, he probably could have had a very strong tournament. Next up, he beats Tobizaru Yorikiri. Poor old Tobizaru went head first and wore Onosato's elbow, and I still remember the slap as they came together. Wakamoto Haru, he beats in a Tsukiyatoshi diagonal throwdown. Just got Wakamoto Haru's center of gravity up. Wakamoto Haru went for his favorite double belt grip and just got forced to the bails, not quick enough. Kirishima, the less said there, the better. He was just in awful form. I think I've got him down for one of the worst fights of the tournament. Kodazakura, he beats on day 6 to go 5-1. And I think he was very sensible. He waited for Kodazakura. Pretty normal tachiai. They both got a bit of a belt grip, and Kodazakura had that left outside grip and started going backwards.
That was one of the biggest matches of the tournament because Kodazakura was in contention for the Yusho pretty much the entire time. And having beaten him on your way to win the Yusho really puts a bit of a mark on that potential playoff situation. Or it's like, I just got to beat this guy who I've already beaten to win the whole thing, and he's playing catch up to me. That was a very pivotal match.
I think Kodazakura was certainly trying to go for the Iwatanage throw, but Onosato just kept that pressure up, and Kodazakura just ran out of space and time and went out Yorikiri, and that's their third meeting, 2-1 to Kodazakura. So getting a win over the Ozeki like that, that's a pivotal moment for Onosato there, and certainly one of those matches Kodazakura will be rueing that he dropped.
Definitely one of those things you look back on where it's like, if this went this way, I could have won it, kind of thing. It's not very Ozeki-like to lose like that.
I would have taken either Kodazakura or Onosato for the Yusho win, to be honest. It's about time.
Was the third place runner-up for me.
Yeah, he certainly was performed well, except for his loss to Onosato, the Ole fight, I think I've called it.
Yeah. How do you predict a man that large, that fast, moving in that way?
And to twist on the ball of his heel to just get the hell out of the way. I mean, I watched that match in replay in slow motion, and I picked it up in slow motion, but I don't know how Onosato picked it up so quickly in live action, where you can see Daisho set himself ready for the push after he got pushed back.
It's moments like that really cement that Onosato is not just a fluke, and that he's not just on a hot streak. It's being able to come up with defensive strategy that effective when you realize you're losing, and not letting like your pride as a fighter get in the way to realize that you're losing, to need to come up with a new plan. That's some of the incredibly high skill stuff that really separates the Sanyaku from the lower guys. So I think that we will have a Sekewake Onosato for a while if he can keep this up.
That's a really important point. I mean, you see sometimes like Hokuto Fuji, he's a very straightforward forward wrestler, and I think he sometimes struggles to adapt to a fight. And I think apart from, say, the fight that Midori Fuji had with Tamawashi, I think Midori Fuji can sometimes be a little bit set in his ways mid-fight. He that's part of his problem. He doesn't adapt to that fight, and certainly Onosato, it was such a great move to change up where he was going.
Hokuto Fuji is probably the best example you could have given, because he will just keep trying to charge forward and crash into you no matter where he is in the ring.
I don't think I'd like him to crash into me. He's a big man.
God, nor would I.
So The Ole fight, Daisho goes Superman without undies over the bales. Some pretty good sumo sense there. He beats hard charging Gonayama. He just got driven out pretty quickly. That got him his Kachikoshi on day 10 with 2 losses. Day 11 beats Hoshoryu Shitatanage. Gets beaten to Shitatanage by Hoshoryu, we talked about. And then he comes up against Takara Fuji, who was, obviously joint leading it at a certain point. And it was just a fast, dominant defeat by Onosato over Takara Fuji, just driven straight back to the bales. I think Takara Fuji just ran out of power.
I actually thought Takara Fuji was one of the guys who'd be able to stop him. Because he does have that incredibly strong base, and he is just about as big as Onosato. So I thought he was going to do his usual thing, is stand in front there and kind of wear him out and find that one mistake that, a 16-year career on the clay can let you see. And he just got overpowered.
Do you think he kind of ran out of power? I mean, he's been around a long time. He knows what it is to get through 15 days of a tournament. But
yeah, well, he's not young, so that's part of it.
Yeah, I just saw towards the end of the tournament. I know he won on day 15, but before he got to day 15, he just looked like he was a bit lacking in power, a bit lacking in zip to get to that final day, and I think that's what really did him with Onosato. He just literally drove him.
Yeah, sort of to be expected. He's 36, which isn't old, really, but in the realm of best of the best professional fighter athlete is it's not 25.
So day 13, he beats Ura Oshidashi, and Ura tried to get a left hand in and just got absolutely yeeted from the ring off into the crowd. I think I'm going to use the new Kimarite, a Yitanage, and that counts when you land at least in the first row.
The splash zone.
Yes. I think I really want to be able to sit in that front row and have someone like Ura land on me. Maybe not Takakeisho. He's probably a bit large.
I'd rather them land next to me, but I understand the appeal.
You see the people come up and they're like, I'm honoured that someone's landed on me. I don't. It is. You see them all the time.
No, they go in. It's like a game ball touch, It's like, oh yeah, I got it.
It's funny, it's mainly high-end sponsors who sit in the first 2 rows. They're not allowed to eat and drink, not allowed to have their phone. They're usually wearing like a standard tabard.
They have their phone though.
They do.
We point it out all the time. It's like, guards, arrest that man.
Yes. So he gets to day 14, beats Shononumi fairly easily. Onosato made that look easy. He comes to day 15.
Disappointing one. I would like to see more from Shononumi, but he's just not Sanyaku yet.
Well, again, in the lead up towards the end of the Yusho race, and just maybe runs out of a bit of power. Not used to doing 15 days against some very quality wrestlers in the Megashira. Certainly, while Sanyaku is a big step up, it's also clearly a big step up from Juryo to even just to Megashira. So you see guys who drop back to Juryo and they just do so well, but they come up into Megashira and it's just a step up in skill.
Daiamami is the best example I have of that. Has never gone positive in top division and has gone positive in Jiro plenty of times.
I was a bit surprised that it took Wakataka Kage a couple of goes to win the Yusho in Juryo, to be honest. He's a better wrestler than 3 in Juryo to win it.
Yeah, no, it was that first one back was a bit skeptical. 14 in 1 is convincing. So welcome back to top division, Wakataka Kage.
Even if he does win the Yusho with a henka.
It don't matter. There were 13 wins that weren't a henka.
So he gets to day 15. He needs to win that one against Arby for the tournament. It was a pretty easy, convincing win. To be honest, it was one little hit on the shoulder that just turned Arby the wrong direction, and he forced him out.
Arby's balance can be a little weird like that. His very long legs can lead him in some awkward situations.
He does get very
And
forward, doesn't he?
yeah, he can look like a clown when he loses, and he can look like a monster when he wins. It's just his style of sumo.
So we had a couple of guys finishing very close behind. Kotazakura, Daisho both had opportunities, I would say, to get through this tournament. Kotazakura, I think, dropped a couple of key matches along the way. Let me just turn my note here. Kirishima, we can pretty much leave out because he just had an awful one. Apparently, did himself his neck injury. Where are we? Lost to Daisho on day one, Kotazakura. Just didn't get the grip, and when it didn't work, the human threshing machine forced him out.
It's one of the matches you'd expect him to lose to. Daisho went positive at Sekewake for a year. He is one of the absolute threats of this division. He's got wins over the Yokozuna. He's a guy that can beat anyone on the roster, so not a surprise at all that he can beat the Ozeki.
Like you watch him hit people with those Sapari thrusts, and there's a lot of power behind them. You see it really changes people's momentum, the body position quite severely in a lot of cases, and I think that's obviously the trick to what he's trying to achieve.
For sure.
The only other losses he had as he went through, obviously Onosato on day 6, and then Arby on day 14. He did pull a hanker against, was it Shonanumi on day 13, Kotazakura? And it was a bit of unusual for him to pull a hanker like that. And certainly it's impressive for me to see Kotazakura pull a hanker because, there's a lot of bulk there, and trying to move that fast is impressive.
Yeah, that was a peculiar one because Kotazakura should be so much better than Shonanumi. But him feeling the need to hanker him like that really put the whole tournament, his tournament, in question. Where it's like, all right, so how much do you believe in yourself then? That just your regular sumo isn't enough here.
It's almost like the hanker Takakosho did on a Tami Fuji back in September. It's like, you're a better wrestler than that. Do you really need to hanker a Tami Fuji for the U-show? I mean, I understand the what's the term?
That one I'm willing to forgive because he did beat him clean about 3 days earlier.
Yes.
So he'd already proven that he was a better wrestler, and he just wanted to win at that point.
Bit of karma the next day. He lost to Arby by Oshidashi. Arby's thrust just drove him to the edge, and he just couldn't stop him. So, pretty good tournament there for Kotazakura, but I had him perhaps as maybe my biggest flop for the tournament. I think he, without the others there...
it's a hell of a statement. An 11-4 Junyu show being disappointing is...
Yeah, but I think missing all the others, to me, that's a disappointment that he didn't take that opportunity and win it. Like the loss to Takayasu, he knew what was coming, and I think if he wants to solidify his Ozeki, put himself together for a Yokozuna, to me, missing the Yokozuna and two of the other Ozeki and one of the other Komusubi, and you've got an injured Sekiwake. To me, I just think it was Kotazakura's to win.
That makes a lot of sense. If it wasn't for Onosato, it was Kotazakura's to win.
Hoshoryu is probably a bit disappointed in himself as well, but Ozeki's been there for a while. Maybe it's just I have higher expectations of Kotazakura because he's up in Ozeki now, and those two guys. Really, it should have been a playoff between those two at the end of the tournament, Kotazakura and Hoshoryu.
You would want it to be. The Takakosho is the thing that kind of throws it into question, though. That guy's been in Ozeki for, I think, nearly 5 years, and has never really made the chance to make Yokozuna, except for that one 12-3 U-show, 12-3 Junyu show. It's the closest he got. It's an interesting case being Ozeki.
I don't think he'll ever make it now. I think
Nah, not in the state he's in.
his Yokozuna run is done. I think he just can't. He can't. He can barely put together one tournament, let alone two and two winning tournaments. So I think he's better off to stay in the Sanyaku ranks as Ozeki and what have you, take the pay.
Fair enough.
Maybe not check out, but at least take the pay. Best fight of the tournament. Which one do you reckon gets there? I've got a few on my list, and I've watched them all back, and I suppose the four I've got picked is certainly day one, Onosato versus Terunofuji. We spoke about that one. Suki Nage throw at the edge. I just, day one to against the Yokozuna and to take that sort of pressure and get the win. I think in terms of maybe not how good the fight was, but at least in terms of what that meant for the Yusho and for Onosato, that was up there for me.
Hard to pick a favorite, but there are a few that stand out. Hiradumi versus Takakeisho was the most excited I was at the end of the match, because Hiradumi, my co-host JJ, pointed out where it's like, this dude's actually really good. You should pay attention to him. It's like, all right, he's at his career high rank of M2. Let's take a look at this. And then he just bulldozes Takakeisho back to the pavilion. And that's when it's like, I should pay attention to this guy. And then he went 9-6 at his career high. So that was the biggest, what's going on moment for me.
Yeah, I think Hiradumi, the big brown belly man, I've been a fan for a long time.
I've been a fan for about one bar show, so. But let's see how long we can last.
Yes.
Hoshoryu Onosato was the most beautiful display of technique I saw. It was like the speed at which he did that, how perfect it looked in slow motion, like he was doing a demonstration on one of the biggest, scariest guys on the clay. That was fantastic. And then a personal favorite of mine is Hokuto Fuji versus Takara Fuji. I get excited for the most whenever they get to verse, because it is just pure offense versus pure defense. And it's almost a chess match watching those two battle. So those three for me were the most interesting.
I had I won't disagree with any of those, and certainly Hoshoryu versus Hiradumi I think was probably one of my favourites on day 4, where the referee, the Gyoji, went down twice. I think that was probably more because it was spectacular as watching I think it was Shinosuke go down twice, but he still pointed the gombai.
The TV product of that match was fantastic. We put that Gyoji leaning down, his head resting on the side of a couch, pointing his fan like a remote. We've got that on our show now because it just looks so funny. I did
see that, yes. Great little icon. Daisho and Meisei on day 12, that was the great escape by Meisei. Meisei's great escape. It's like 2 or 3 really, I thought he was gone moments, and he's just come back and taken the win.
Meisei does sumo so much faster than everyone else that when he gets put up against some Oshi legends like Daisho, it's just so much fun to watch.
I think Meisei's really impressed me in the last couple of bashos. Last year he was very so-so. He was just like someone you could pass by and kind of go, oh well, yeah, Meisei's fighting. He might win or he might not, sort of wrestler. There was no real energy fight or whatever you want to call it for him last year. But come January, he seemed to find himself, I don't know, just an extra gear. He's stepped up the training, got a bit more motivation, something like that. Certainly, I think in March he came away with a really, really terrible record. But if you look at his fights, they weren't bad fights. They were pretty good fights in the end. And I think he didn't really deserve a Makikoshi, if you could say that. I mean, Makikoshi is, you get what you get on the scoreboard, but I just thought he didn't really deserve it given some of the fights he had. I think in terms of personal preference, I had Midori Fuji Tamawashi. Midori Fuji was going for that Oshizumo style, really hard, pushing forward early in the tournament, and then I think, and I'll contradict myself, because he got in that big arm wrestle with Tamawashi and tried a few thrusts. Couldn't get him out. He just couldn't make it happen. They'd locked up their arms at a bit of a distance from each other, and Midori Fuji just saw the opportunity to pull back and go for a Karasukashi, and he went one side. Tamawashi tried to lock up his arm and then just pulled it off on the other side. And to me, I mean, I'll get excited when I see that sort of Kimarite being executed and executed like perfectly.
There was that one beautiful moment in the match where they were both trying to figure out what to do next, leaning on each other's foreheads, and the Obama cam zooms right into it. And it's like, oh, this is an absolute battle. I'm ready for it.
I think Tamawashi, you can see he knew it was coming again. Knew it was coming, knew it was going to happen, couldn't stop it.
Must have thought he could defend it, considering how big he is compared to Midori Fuji. And just got surprised.
Well, you can see he locked up Midori Fuji's arm on one side, and Midori Fuji just changed sides and went for the other one. On to Kotazakura versus Tobizaru. A lot of debate over the dead body rule on this match. Tobizaru goes backwards. He's at the bail. If you look at the replay, it appears that Kotazakura steps out of the ring as Tobizaru's still on the Tawara bail. How'd you see it?
A lot of people unhappy with that match. But the dead body rule usually is in favor of who's doing the offensive move. So I think it's just another case of the rule being applied 95% fairly. The problem is, with the dead body rule, the person losing to it is going to be someone's favorite wrestler, and they will call nonsense on that. It's just a horrible way to watch a guy go out, and that really affects people's opinion, I believe. But
that dead body rule is really hard for people to understand.
Yeah, otherwise it was a mostly fair application of the rule.
I mean, you can usually see a couple of good dead bodies. I think Kirishima and Onosato. Kirishima, his feet left the surface as he was going out of the ring, and that's clear dead body. Once you Ura does that a lot in
that's
retreating
what I was bringing
and going
up next.
backwards.
Ura's had moments where he's intentionally jumped out of the ring to avoid touching down, and I feel like that's where it really gets confusing. Because it's like, yeah, but that was an intentional defensive move by Ura to not hit the ground last. And then the judges go, yeah, but he intentionally threw himself out. Sumo is about not going out. And it's...
I think
there's no official translation of the rule that we can really look to. So for us English fans, it's kind of difficult to figure out as well.
Yeah, and I think there is a little bit of, like all good rules, there's a little bit of wiggle room for the judges to apply some common sense to how they see it. I mean, my thing about the Kotazakura Tobizaru fight is if you watch the replay in full time, you can see the point at which Tobizaru gives up. And to me, Kotazakura had grabbed him and held him in order to stop him going down hard out of the ring. And to me, that was more about a protecting the opponent moment than it was the dead body rule. And they will, even though Kotazakura steps out, the winning or the person undertaking the aggressive move, the offensive move, even if they touch down first, if they are trying to protect the opponent from injury, they will accept that sometimes.
I feel like a lot of these concerns could be resolved with Torana Oshi rather than calling a win off the dead body rule. But, rules are rules, so it's really up to the judges. Their word is final.
Yes, it's still on the scoreboard, as they say, as you're walking off the pitch. Worst fight of the tournament, I'm going to have to give that to Kirishima versus Atami Fuji. Kirishima got spun 360. It demonstrated how badly out of form he is.
Yeah, I'm not sure what's going on with him exactly. New coach, fresh injury, 2 pretty bad basho in a row. I'm not sure what the deal is.
Do you think
my worst fight? It was Gonayama someone. I think it was... I forgot his name now. Meisei? It was the one where Gonayama got pushed out and looked like he was an absolute terror standing on the Tawara.
Oh, and he got absolutely... It might have been Onosho or something?
Yeah, Onosho, that was it.
Let me have a look.
That's the worst one because he's the only person who got completely embarrassed on their loss.
Mm.
You're a top division wrestler and you're sitting there, arms flailing in fear on the tower. It's like you gotta be more composed than that. You gotta be a braver fighter than that. You know, you just completely
I think he got
embarrassed yourself.
fairly yeeted too.
Oh, it wasn't gentle.
No, so he ended up in about the third row, I believe. Let me just check the note. Where is it? Onosho. That was the Onosho one was a mono E, and Oshidashi. Yeah, it was Hiradumi.
Yeah.
Oshi Tayoshi.
Yeah, I've
So
got it here now, day 12.
push out and fall down after you go out. He was committed, and Hiradumi grabbed his arm, leaving him dangling on the bales, and it was a full yeet into the crowd. Yes, I do remember that one. It was just, poor kind of effort. You could have, like, trying to save himself, and Hiradumi finished him off.
Yeah, I would say that one was the worst, not because of the loss, but in the way that he lost. You kind of embarrassed yourself in the sport doing that, so not a good look for everyone.
Best move of the tournament. Best Kimarite,
Onosato,
best move.
Hoshoryu. No. What is his name? The dude who just
Hoshoryu.
won everything. There's a lot of O's in here. Yeah, no, I got it right the
Onosato.
first time. Onosato, Hoshoryu. Why did I doubt myself?
The Shitatanage throw with a little bit of leg to help him go over.
Just beautiful.
Yes. Look, there are a couple of really good ones, like Shonanumi kicking Nishiki Fuji's foot over the bales. I thought that was just really great sumo sense by Shonanumi.
Yeah, definitely. There was a lot of really good matches. My second place for best move would be Hoshoryu Abi in what I would describe as the perfect Abi match. He landed right under his shoulders and lifted him upright, pushed him back to the ropes, took 2 steps, and then just pushed him out. It was about a 1.5 second match with exactly 2 moves done by Abi. It was the least amount of sumo he could have possibly done to win a match. It was perfect.
Yeah, Abi's certainly put himself in contention right up to the final day, and it just, that Nottawa thrusting, it certainly works for him. And it was early in the tournament. Hoshoryu should have been on his game, but that big charge.
Just got hit by a perfect Abi match.
Yes. Probably, what was the other one I had? I had to mention probably the strangest or the rarest Kimarite we saw, which was Nishikigi and Takanosho, an Armiyuchi fisherman's throw to get hold of the arm and execute a fisherman's throw, basically like you're throwing the net. I thought that was a pretty good one. I watched it again last night and kind of chuckled to myself.
Credit to my co-host JJ. He actually called that as it happened.
Oh, did he?
So I
well
was very
done.
impressed with him.
Very
A
impressive.
very rare Kimarite to get called accurately like that. Good effort to him.
The funny thing was, I was watching. If anyone's listening, they want to go to and learn a bit more about the Kimarite, NHK Sumopedia. You can Google, and they have video demonstrations of all the Kimarite, and there's quite a lot of them. I'd actually only just watched the Armiyuchi the day before on the video.
I'll have to take a look.
So, look, most improved, I think we had Daiyosho back to form, Abi back to form. Hiradumi certainly stepped up level of aggression and turned the afterburners on this tournament. Oshoma down in lower Magashira ranks was there up towards the end on debut.
Onosato improved as well. He got his first 12 wins in top division at Komusubi. Just kind of scary to think about.
Yeah, how many do you reckon he's going to? How long before he gets to Ozeki is the question.
Potentially 2 Basho.
I know. I heard the JSA talking today that his Magashira was at 15, and Magashira 5 can't count to an Ozeki run at in the Sanyaku ranks. He has beaten, I think, 9.
There was a case of someone in the 70s. Kakei, I think his name was, who got Ozeki from M4, then to Sekiwake. But the M4 was a 14-1 Yusho. And he
pretty
had
impressive.
already been Ozeki before then. So
And I think, if you look at who he fought at, was it Magashira 15, there's no one in the Joy in Magashira 15. It was all the lower Magashira. Magashira
yeah,
5, he got a couple of wins, but he did lose to most of the Sanyaku at Magashira 5. But certainly, I think he's got 9 wins over Sanyaku wrestlers now. So I can see him September. If he has a big tournament in July, maybe a 14 to 13 or 14, I think that there's a bit of precedent they might look favourably on him.
he's got 6 in this basho and 7, 8, 9. Yeah, spot on. And 3 in the last basho.
Might see an new Ozeki at November if he can stay injury free. So July tournament. Hopefully we get a few of the Sanyaku guys back. Takakeisho will be Kataban yet again.
Mm-hmm. A healthy Terunofuji, a healthy Takakeisho, and a healthy Takarafuji are going to make for a very interesting basho.
Oh, it'd just be a great tournament to see all of them back a little bit healthier, a little bit firing on all cylinders. And I can't see that happening in July, but we might maybe look forward to September, where some of these guys get through their injuries and back to form. I'd be really interested to see. I think one more Kyujo from Terunofuji, and I think he's done.
It's entirely possible we've seen his last match.
It'd be sad to see too.
Yeah, you don't all get the fairy tale Hakuho ending. Sometimes you just fade. It hurts, but that's fighting.
Well, combat sports, that's what it is.
Yeah. There's a lot of Tony Ferguson fans that will never get the moment they want.
We're going to have Sekiwake Kirishima in July. He's obviously failed at 2 tournaments at Ozeki, so he drops back. Wakamoto Haru, look, I would think he'll go back to Magashira 1, maybe not. I can't see him sitting at Komusubi. A bit of precedent there, both in January and for Daisho to fall back to Magashira 1 as well. So I think he'll be falling back there again. Should be hopefully an interesting tournament. We get Takerafuji will need to fight his way back into Magashira in July, which is a shame. He's got to come back via the Juryo basho. I would be disappointed if he doesn't win the Juryo Yusho in July.
I am praying for some bias and then putting him back at M17 again, and then we get to do the whole song and dance once more.
It's the way to go. Okay, thanks, Goose. That's much appreciated for coming on tonight. I hope you enjoyed the tournament.
Thank you for having me.
Thank you for having me on the live commentary. We'll have another go in July. I may have to report live from Tokyo in September as I hit the basho myself into the Kokugikan. I'll be sure to look out for you in the women's change rooms at the Kokugikan, right. I think, as you say. Thanks a lot, Goose. Ciao, mate. That's it for this episode, listeners. Thank you for joining us. A big thank you to Goose from Sunday Morning Sumo for joining us for a chat today. You can catch Goose and JJ and the odd guest commentator on Sunday Morning Sumo live stream on YouTube. Every basho, they do all 15 days. They get a little bit of help from a few guest presenters here and there. It's a good listen. There's a bit of funny chat goes on as well. Hope you've enjoyed this episode. I'll punch out a few more episodes before the next basho. We'll talk about the Bunsuke as it comes out 2 weeks before the July tournament in Nagoya. Thanks for listening, everyone. Hakioi, let's learn sumo.